take some real-time use cases as well while creating policies? Yes, absolutely, guys. I've already talked about real-time use cases. Those real-time use cases are that if prevention policies are not there, none of the operations from your endpoint will be blocked by CrowdStrike. For example, on this laptop, I'm saying on this device, which is onboarded into CrowdStrike, if you notice, if I navigate to certain websites, for example, let's say anydesk.exe, or I navigate to AnyDesk website, it doesn't stop me. Though we all are of the opinion that AnyDesk is kind of a malicious tool or a malicious platform which is being used by threat actors to execute threats or to remotely connect to endpoints, production endpoints, and then transfer threats on them. But it is not blocking me, right? Similarly, if I go to icar.org, this is a known anti-malware test file site. It is not blocking me. The Falcon sensor is doing nothing. I'm saying it doesn't stop me from doing all of this, right? If I try to download any malicious program, let's say if I go to download VLC media player. Now, if I try to download VLC media player, it will not stop me from these operations. And in the same manner, if I have any program on my system, let's say VLC is also there on my system. If I try to execute VLC media player, it will not stop me. The VLC media player will open. So basically, these are the operations that I want to block. I don't want VLC media. I don't want my users using my production endpoints to be able to uh, download and install VLC media player. If it is already installed on their system, they should not be able to execute it. They should not be able to run the application. That's what I want. So this is something that which is possible through prevention policies. I need to define prevention policies so that my CrowdStrike Falcon sensor running on the endpoints would be enlightened to know what they need to block and what they need to allow. Right now, they will not block any of these operations because these operations are not 100% illegitimate, 100% malicious. Some organizations use VLC media player. However, if you go to VirusTotal, which is open source intelligence, so if I go to VirusTotal and if I search for VLC media player, you will find that this application has been associated with a number of vulnerabilities, and there has been a number of threat or security incidents which are associated with VLC media player, right? So if I go to VirusTotal and search for VLC media player, okay, you basically need to put the file, hash of VLC media player. It will not search it directly. Otherwise, you can type the URL. So let's say www.ica.org. If I search for this domain, you can see a lot of security solutions have, this is the report of multiple security solutions. They basically talk about what it is. So it says 195 vendors flag the URL as malicious, right? So vendors are flagging it as malicious. Similarly, there could be n number of websites which are malicious. So here you will get all the information. Now, with the help of prevention policy, I'm able to instruct Falcon sensor running on the endpoint to take certain remedial measures to block certain operations. That's the benefit of policies. So that's what we are going to configure. So prevention policies are policies that an administrator will configure to instruct CrowdStrike Falcon sensor running on endpoint to block and prevent certain operations or executions. That's what we use prevention policy for. Okay. Now, in the previous session, I have also covered indicators part, and I could see that some of you have actually configured indicators. If I go to IOC management, Okay, so in the IOC management, let's see what you guys have configured. Great. Let's see anything date added. Over here. So I've seen a couple of IOCs that have been added here. All right, Sunil, host group. Sunil, are you there in the session?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Sunil, what IOCs did you add here? What are you blocking here?
This is some known IOCs I searched from the internet.
Okay, what is this IOC? So can you help other team members, other
Uh,
participants about what
I
exactly?
forgot to actually.
Okay, let me see if you have put some information with respect to that IOC. Charles, you're also blocking something, monster.com. Okay. So Charles, tell me one thing. After you block monster.com, is it actually getting blocked on the endpoint, which is Falcon sensor running on it?
I'm not sure it's blocking. I didn't block that. It's
Okay, you
just
didn't block it.
so. No, it's
No
not
problem.
blocking.
It says no action, detect only, block. I'm saying I only see block operations. So I also see something for Syed. Syed, are you there? You're blocking something. Let's see what are you blocking. Rakshak is also blocking some file hash here. Testing hash. What is he blocking? Okay. There is some hash, but it doesn't say the information about that hash. No problem. I can quickly find out what is this hash. So copy the hash, put that into virus total. Not here. You can find it or you can search. Okay, this is corresponding to some Android CTS Linux. The reported empty file, it can exist malicious, it cannot exist malicious behavior. Okay, no information about this hash actually. No problem. Let's go back. Okay, so the point that I'm trying to make here is that even if you have configured IOCs in the name of some URL or public IP that you are blocking, or let's say some applications or files that you are blocking, they will not get blocked unless you create a prevention policy. Because IOC has a dependency on prevention policy, right? So if I'm saying we can give it a try real quick with one of the participants so that it is clear to all of you. Uh, so can I have one volunteer? Okay, the first thing first. So guys, uh, the endpoints that you are deploying Falcon sensor on, I hope you're not deploying Falcon sensor on your personal laptop. Because if you do so, the next few policies that we are going to discuss, which is device control policy, firewall policy, prevention policies, exclusion policies, they may, I'm saying because of those policies, you may end up losing access to your endpoint, to your personal device. So please do not configure anything on your personal device. Otherwise, it will unnecessarily impact the performance of that device, or you may end up losing access to that device completely. So do not configure anything. Anything that you need to configure, do it into your test environment, which is your cloud environment, the one where you have your endpoints, test endpoints, right? Okay, let's do this quickly. Charles, do you have an endpoint which is up and
Yes.
running?
I have to turn that on now.
It is in AWS, Azure, Google, where it is?
AWS.
AWS. Okay. Can you quickly turn it on?
Yes, I'm turning it on now.
Okay. All right. Let's first look at a scenario and then we'll go to prevention policies and see the value proposition that they bring on the table. And let's do it quickly. I'm targeting to complete this today in the session itself. Just connect to Windows instance.
Sorry.
All right, this is
Yes.
the endpoint. Can you show it to the participants whether this endpoint is reporting into CrowdStrike console, whether it has Falcon sensor on it?
Um,
On the
what?
at the bottom of the endpoint where you see time and date, if you have sensor policy, then you will see the sensor of CrowdStrike there.
It's not.
Okay, no problem. Then you can go to add remove programs and show it to rest of the participants that you have CrowdStrike deployed on it.
Mhm. Yeah. So this is it.
Great. So CrowdStrike Falcon sensor is there. Now also log into CrowdStrike console on this endpoint and show it to the participant that this endpoint is actually reflecting into CrowdStrike console and it is showing as online. Yeah, all the participants, please focus on what we are doing. We are creating a use case for prevention policy here. Okay, great. Now show it to the participants, your endpoint, whether that endpoint is healthy, whether it is reporting into the console. Not in host group, it's under host management.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. So you can see your endpoint right on the top, which is Charles, the first endpoint. In the table, you see your endpoint, right? Select that endpoint.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the one. Charles hyphen demo hyphen EC. Now go back
Correct.
to your and go back to the desktop of your endpoint, the main screen. You can validate the name there also. Yeah, you can see here Charles hyphen demo hyphen EC. Yeah, it's there, right? So it is the same endpoint. Let's look at the status of this endpoint in the console whether it is reporting or not. So click on the endpoint name. Click on act. Now it shows actions. When you click on the name, you see the details. That's okay. Action will not show you whether it is online or offline. But if you just click on asset details, then you can see it.
Where,
Yeah. Just click anywhere on the endpoint, then it will show you. Yeah, click anywhere instead of selecting it. Okay, no problem. Scroll it down, you will see the information also. On the right-hand side, that information has come up. Click on the, yep, click there. Yep. Now you see that host information, scroll it down and you will see the status. Keep coming down. No, not like that. Go up, click on asset details. Asset details. Yeah, host info or asset details. Host info. Ah,
okay.
this is the one. Now see, the host status is online. Is everyone with me on this, guys? Can I get a quick thumbs up? If you're able to see that Charles endpoint is online, it is reporting into the console. Great. Now what Charles is going to do, Charles is going to block some application on the endpoint. So the first application is anydesk.exe. Charles is endpoint administrator or CrowdStrike administrator for his employer. And Charles has received an information from the security team that any desk application, which is a remote controls application, has been involved in many security frauds. Please block this information on all the endpoint. So Charles is going to block it now. All right. So Charles, let's block any desk. So how do you block any desk? Go ahead and download any desk first on this endpoint. This is how you block an application, guys. Download any disk. Yeah. Downloads. Is it downloaded? Great. It's downloaded. Let's also download VLC Media Player. Let's block two applications simultaneously. So simultaneously, I'm covering IOC part also, guys. This is exactly what you would do after completing prevention policies. We are covering two topics together. When you want to block an application, you will basically block it under IOC. So we are trying to block two applications, which is VLC Media Player and AnyDesk. And in the same manner, you can block any application in this world. The process will remain the same.
Okay.
Downloaded? Great. All right. So you've got both the applications. Now, all the participants, please note, right now, these two applications are not restricted by CrowdStrike. So Charles will be able to install them. Charles will be able to use them. Charles, can you go ahead and install these applications? There is no restriction on this. So the CrowdStrike Falcon sensor is up and running. However, it will not stop this behavior. See, Charles is able to directly use AnyDesk. AnyDesk doesn't need installation actually. You can directly use it. Okay. Now close it. Then install VLC Media Player. You can also install it. You can see. Cancel. Why AnyDesk is used in majority of the security threats or security adversaries, because it doesn't require installation. You can directly execute it. But other applications require installation, and sometimes users doesn't have installation rights, admin rights on the system, so they are prevented from doing that operation. Okay, install VLC Media Player. So you can see, guys, Charles is able to install VLC Media Player also, which means there is no restriction as we speak. However, my objective is to restrict Charles, not only Charles, all my employees in my organization who have Falcon sensors on, up and running on their endpoints, they should not be able to use these two applications because these two applications are malicious. They have been reported to have been involved into cyber threats. So how will I block it? Don't run it. Just click on finish. So Charles is able to install them also. Okay, but I want them to be blocked. So what Charles is going to do now as an administrator, Charles is going to block these two applications. In order to block these applications, Charles will navigate to CrowdStrike Falcon console. In the console, Charles will navigate to endpoint security. And under endpoint security, Charles will navigate to IOC management, because these are indicators of compromise. They are not compromised, but they can indicate and compromise. So Charles is going to navigate to IOC management. Okay, over here, you will click on create new. On the top right corner, you will see three dots, vertical dots. Click there and then hit create new. Add hashes. These are the options basically, add hashes. So we have three types of indicators: hashes, domain, and IP address. We are going to focus on hashes because if you want to block an application, then you will always block an application using its hash value. Okay, over here, Charles is supposed to upload a file that contains all the application hashes. If you feel that you already have a list of known applications which you don't want to allow in your environment, what you can do, you can put them into a spreadsheet and upload that spreadsheet here. That one way of doing it. But since this is a lab environment, we'll just do it for one, and the process will remain the same for 100 and 1000 as well. So click on manually add hashes. Now over here in this box, Charles is supposed to put a hash file, right? So Charles can put MD1 or SHA-256 hash value of that application. We don't have that information, so we will get the hash value of it. Go back to your endpoint, go back to the application where the application is downloaded. I'm saying just minimize. Yeah, over here, this is the application. Now remember, guys, if you want to block an application, there are two methods to block an application. The first method is blocking it using its hash file. And the second method is digital signature. Every application which is global, which is quite common, it is signed by its manufacturer, which is known as a signed application. Every manufacturer, before it releases an application, signs it so that the users can validate the authenticity of it. So I can block this application using its digital signature, or I can block this application using its hash value. I have two options to block. How will I get the hash value of this application? to get the hash value of this application, I will need to open command prompt. I can get it through PowerShell or command prompt. I'll tell you the easy process. First of all, Charles, do one thing. In the C drive, in the main folder, in the C drive, create a folder so that so that it makes more sense. Yeah, over here, create a folder with the name IOC. IOC. Great. And move those files here. Both the files. Great. All right. Now open command prompt. Now I'll tell you the process of how do we get the hash value of it. Open command prompt. Command prompt with administrative privileges. Right click and run as administrator. Yeah. Great. Now let's navigate to this folder. CD backslash. That will take you to the root backslash. This is forward slash backslash. Yeah, hit enter. Now type CD IOC. CD stands for change directory, and now you are in IOC directory. You can do dir. Dir will show you the content of this directory. So you can see in this directory, we have two files, VLC. You can see the name of those files also there. Okay, both the files are there. Great. Now we need hash value. How do we get hash value of these files? What we need to type cert util, CERT util space hyphen hash file. This is underscore hyphen. This is underscore hash file, one word, space. No, you put enter. You don't. Okay, space. Now hit tab from the keyboard. You will see the file name also. Hit tab from the keyboard. This is no, not any. Yeah, okay. AnyDesk space. Type SHA 256. SHA 256. Okay, hang on there. So this is the process of getting the hash value. You need to type the command, which is cert util space hyphen hash file, name of the file whose hash value you want to get. Since you are already in the folder where the file is, you don't need to type it or copy it. You can just press tab from the keyboard and it will automatically show you the file names one after another. So select the file, put a space and then type SHA-256 and hit enter. Value of this file or hash value of this file. Now you see the hash value of this file. Now, if you want to get MD5 value, some security solutions, for example, Defender for Endpoint or Sentinel-1, they also allow you to block an application through its MD5 value. How do you get MD5 value? The command will remain the same. Instead of SHA-256 in the end, you will type MD5. So you get both MD5 and SHA value of VLC, AnyDesk. In the same manner, we can get this information for VLC also. Get this information for VLC also. Great. The MD5 part also. Okay. All right. So we have got the hash value. Now copy the hash value for AnyDesk. SHA-256. Yeah. You can directly copy it from command prompt. Control C. And navigate to CrowdStrike console where it was asking you for hash value. Yeah, put it here. Okay. Make sure there is no space at the beginning or at the end. Great. Now in the description tab, this is the hash value for AnyDesk. You can type AnyDesk Okay. Ah, great. Don't type hash value, just type the application name because this tab will be shown in the console. So for example, I was asking this question to other people that what is the corresponding hash, whose application is this, and they were not able to respond. But now since I have description, I will quickly go inside this configuration and I will know what, which is the corresponding application of this hash value. Okay. Then you can type the file name. This is optional, leave it. You can type the file name as also AnyDesk because it will also be shown into the console. AnyDesk, great. Then where exactly are you want to block it? Now host group, which is very important. If you don't provide the host group, it will be applicable to all the hosts. But I don't want, now listen to everyone. As I said, you all have access to the same console, but I have made the separation using the host group. So any policy and configuration that you are applying, any restriction or privileges that you are applying, make sure to scope it to your host group only. Charles, please select your host group. Okay. Then select the platform. If you don't select a platform, by default, it will be applicable for everyone. So we are selecting explicitly Windows, then action. What action you want? So now we'll say block and show as detection, the first action on the top. So we want to block this application, and whenever a user tries to access this application, generate a detection in the console so that my security team will, will receive that detection and they can probably connect with the user or user manager and they can warn that user to not use that application in future. Severity, you can select the severity. Let's make it high. Okay, then expiration date. So you're creating this configuration today. If you want to put an expiration date, probably this is a temporary block that you are doing. In future, you will allow this operation. You can put an expiration date. If you don't put an expiration date, it will be permanent. So let's keep it permanent. Then tags. Tags are optional, leave it. Audit log comments. Now, this is very important for the administrator. See, you will not have 100 administrators in an environment, not more than 2, 3 administrators in any environment, in any at any customer where they are using CrowdStrike. So how will the other administrator know what has been done by the first administrator? If there are 2 administrators, they work across shifts, they work across time zone. So in the audit log comment, you can always type justification for this operation, that why are you doing it? Are you doing this as part of a change request that has come from the management, or anything that you would want to put, you will put into the audit log comment, and this comment will be visible to other administrator who will know the justification. Now click on add hashes. Okay, so he has just logged anydesk.exe, right? Now similarly, in the same manner, let's go ahead and block the VLC media player also. So right now you're only selecting your host group, but in production environment, you can select multiple host group, or you can scope this policy to all the host in the environment. That's totally up to you. Great, add this also. It says show error report, something is not right here. Okay. It says duplicate SHA. So basically what happens there, if somebody has already blocked VLC media player, if that value already exists, CrowdStrike would not allow you to put the same value again. CrowdStrike would rather recommend you to add your host group to that configuration only. Because in the production environment, you don't have, multiple people doing the same thing. It is only one configuration. So what it tries to say that this value already exists somewhere, right? EECC. Now close that, cancel this operation and go back to the IOC management. One of the participant has already configured it. You can check it there and you can add your host group in that configuration directly. Let it come. I'll show you how to check. Okay, search indicators. In the search indicator, copy that. In the search, yeah, paste that value. Apply. Now you will see where it is configured. Okay, this is where it is configured. This has been configured under Cloud Expert Endpoint Host Group. Okay, that's the host group where it is configured. So now go to that host group, or probably what I'll do from my console, I will quickly edit there. Let me take a control for a moment, Charles. So I'm taking the control, guys, for a moment. Hope my screen is visible to everyone. So over here, if I navigate to the same place, and if I go to Cloud Expert Endpoint Host Group, you can see here Cloud Expert Endpoint. So here this value is configured. This is where it is. This is the hash value. You can see here, guys. This is the hash value. I can copy this hash value. I'll put that into the chat window. And Charles, can you quickly match if you have the same hash for VLC? Yeah, I put that into the chat window.
I think it's the same hash
It is the
value.
same, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll stop sharing then. Okay, so this has been added. You can share your screen now. So you can check both the hashes now. It has been added. I'm saying refresh your screen and you will see your host group name. I've changed the host group for this hash.
My VM seems to be freezing.
That's okay. You got to be a bit patient here because this VM is configured with low configuration to save cost. If we increase the configuration of the VM, then you will end up paying for it. This VM is part of free tier. So I'm saying we can always manage that part. All right. So I'm saying you can close this, you can minimize that. If you
Um,
can minimize the browser.
I'm not able to do anything here now.
Not able to do.
Yeah.
That's okay. Open Task Manager, Control Shift Escape.
Troubleshoot. Escape. Nothing too. Maybe I should. Can I just shut it down and then start it again immediately?
Okay, any which ways, guys. So after you make certain configuration, there are two options that we have. Either we behave as it happens in production. When you configure something, you give it time to replicate, synchronize, and it takes from a couple of minutes to an hour. That's one way of behaving. The other thing is, in the training environment, you want things to expect the very next moment, the implementation enforcement to expect the very next moment, and it doesn't work like that. So what we can do, if you ever want it to enforce, there is a way. Uh, we can reboot our endpoint. When we reboot our endpoint, restart our endpoint, next time when the endpoint comes back on, the CrowdStrike Falcon service is configured to run automatically. In this, the startup type for CrowdStrike Falcon service is automatic. So what will happen as soon as the endpoint will come back, the CrowdStrike Falcon sensor will quickly connect with its CrowdStrike cloud instance and ask if there is any update for me. And then it will quickly download the configuration changes that you've just done, which is to add additional indicators, and it will behave accordingly, right? So Charles, would you mind just rebooting this instance for a moment, real quick? You can copy the password. Password remains the same even if you reboot. Keep the password on your local system so you don't have to take it next time. Paste it on your local system, this password, and reboot the instance. Are you rebooting the instance?
Yeah, it's connecting to the instance.
I'm saying you can reboot the instance from your local system, say from AWS console. Okay, you're connecting it, but you're already on the instance. Okay, that's your local. Uh, no, no, no. So you're trying to connect to the instance from inside the instance. You are already inside the instance.
So I
Okay.
delete. So let me come here. This is
Uh,
the
no, no,
main
this
desktop.
is your local. This is your local system, right? This browser is
Yes.
from your local system.
Yeah, this is
Am
my
I
local
understanding
system.
correct?
Yes, local
Oh,
system.
all right, all right. Now connect to the instance. Did you reboot the instance from the console, AWS console?
No. So let me.
You need to reboot the instance from the console. Yeah. Instance stays, reboot. Absolutely. Reload. Okay. So why did we reboot the instance? Because we cannot wait for 10-15 minutes. We have made some configuration changes in the console. And for those configuration changes to replicate to all the endpoints, we need to give sufficient time frame depending on how what is the current status of that endpoint, whether it is up and running, how far is it from console. There are a lot of factors that decides the propagation time frame. So to have it take effect with next moment, since it is a lab environment and I have the capability to reboot the instance. So what I did, I rebooted the endpoint, restarted the endpoint. Now, as soon as this endpoint will come back on, the Falcon sensor on the endpoint will ask CrowdStrike if there is any update for me. And CrowdStrike console will say, yes, there has been some indicators that has been configured by admin. And here's the information of those indicators. So the sensor will receive those indicators and sensor will start to act based on the configuration that has been done by the admin.
It's taking some time.
Your VM is not coming back on. Can you go on this? Go on the, I'm saying, go back to instances and check the status. Instances. It says 3 by 3 check passed. So, okay, now download the RDP file once again. Probably the public IP has changed.
Okay.
Hit connect. Yep. RDP. Download the file once again, RDP file. Now click on this file. Provide the password. Okay, while this is connecting, I'm reading from chat.
Should I stop it and then stop the instance from here and
Uh,
then start it
it
again?
works typically. I'm saying we never face this issue. Maybe this is a temporary issue. So you can stop the instance and then start it all over again. AWS is quite quick, but then it could be a temporary stop instance and then start it. Yeah, click stop. Okay, while he's doing it, let me read the message in the chat. Mansingh says, I'm not getting option to block. I'm getting two options, detect only, no action. So, okay, so Dhruv has already responded, which is correct. Yes, for domains, you only have these two options. So guys, when it comes to indicators, indicators are not malicious activities. Indicators are like the domains or URLs that you feel may be involved into some sort of misconfigurations or attack. So CrowdStrike in the IOC management doesn't give you an option to block IP address and domain or URL. If you want to block IP address and domain, then you need to configure them in the firewall policy. So we have a separate module where we can perform any block operation. But in the indicators, we only configure them so that we get a fair idea about the usage of that resource in our environment. So if you want to know how frequently people are using a specific URL, let's say Gmail, you can configure Gmail indicator and then you can download the report. You can configure that in audit mode. And probably a week later, you will know on how many endpoints Gmail was accessed and for how many times it was accessed. So that will give you a fair idea about usage of Gmail. And then you will be able to take an informed decision whether you are going to block Gmail or not, because you will know the kind of noise that it will create. So inside indicators, you can only block applications, and for URLs and domains and IP addresses, you will need to configure block in the firewall policy.
Any idea why it's taking so long to stop?
Uh, I'm saying this could be a temporary behavior from AWS because this console is beyond our control. Just refresh your browser. Hmm. Sometimes browser is not refreshed. Oh, it still says stopping. Hmm. It doesn't do this normally.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm
The other
experiencing
thing
this.
is, why have you provisioned this with T3 Micro? Micro is less resources. You could have gone for T3 small.
Can I edit it?
You can do that. Select it
Yeah.
and then click on Action, Instance Settings, and then change instance type. It is so change instance type is the option which is faded right now because this instance is not available. I'm saying in order to change the instance type under instance configuration, the first option is changed instance type, which is faded. Why it is phases? Because the action is when you can only perform this when the instance is stopped. Right now, the instance is stopping, not stopped. So once you stop the instance, you can change the size of this instance also. You can resize it. I'm saying you can select a lower size or higher size also, right? Okay. Uh, Refresh the browser and see if the instance status has changed. Hmm. Force stop. Yep. So Linux is lightweight. You can use T3 micro or T2 micro for Linux instances, but for Windows, they are UI based. They need a minimum of, a minimum of 2 GB RAM or let's say 4 GB RAM. So for Linux, you can always use T2 medium or T2 small or T3 medium or T3 small. No, just do it once and now it is stopped, right? Now go and change the instance size also and then start it. Yeah. Select, yeah, in the box, type T3 small. You can see T3 small in underneath. Hmm. So small gives you can check the difference in the configuration. T3 micro is two CPU core, both have two CPU core, but the memory is different. See, in T3 small, you have 2 GB of RAM, which is good. Go ahead and configure it, scroll it down at the bottom and change instance type. Done. Now refresh and check whether it is T3 small. Refresh first, refresh the browser. Great, now it's T3 small. Now start it. So guys, you may also face similar issue while working with AWS or while working with your virtual servers. Please make sure to follow the same instructions and bear with us for another 1 or 2 minutes. The instance will be up and running. Okay. So once the instance state is showing as running, you should not be able to connect to the instance unless the status check shows 3 by 3 check passed. There are 3 checks that it does before AWS allows you to RDP in or SSH into a remote instance. Refresh the browser, probably it is done. No problem. Try to connect now. Sometimes there's a lag also. Select the instance first before hitting connect. Download the RDP file. Great, double click on it. Check if the same password works. If not, then get the password also. Okay. Great. So you're back into your instance. Hit cancel. Now, as per the configuration, you should not be able to execute any disk and VLC media player. Now, all the participants, please pay attention once again. Charles has created an IOC. And Charles has actually configured IOC setting. Inside IOC, he has blocked file hashes of any disk and VLC media player. So as per the logic, he should not be able to browse. He should not be able to execute both any disk and VLC media player. Charles, let's go to the IOC folder once again and try to execute both the applications. See if they are working or not. So it is working. What about the other one? That one is also working. If it shows you this option, it means it is working. All right, so both are working, which is contrary, which is exactly opposite to what we expected. We expected these applications to not work, but they are working, which means what we have configured in IOC is not taking effect. So sensor is actually not doing its job, right? Why it is not doing its job? I'll take the control now. Why it is not doing its job? The answer is written here. The answer is here. Read this line.
Prevention policy.
It is not doing its job because without a prevention policy, CrowdStrike agent on endpoints do not enforce security rules, leaving system exposed. That is the reason. And what does prevention policy provides? Prevention policy defines how endpoints, Falcon sensor running on the endpoints, detect, block, and respond to threats. So prevention policy is not configured. That is why what configuration Charles has done is not taking effect. Now, in the same session today, I will show you how after configuring prevention policy, those two applications will stop working on Charles system so that you will understand it end to end. Is everyone with me on this?
Yes.
Yes, Patu.
Great, let's move on. Okay, so let's navigate to prevention policy. So we have few prevention policies. Let me first delete them. And so let me bring it back to the original console. I'll show you how it looks like in the production environment, or when you log into CrowdStrike console for the first time as an admin, what you see basically. Okay, all right. So in the production environment, or when you log into CrowdStrike console for the first time, I will not remove this prevention policy, hunter testing prevention policy. This is part of a training that I delivered last week on CCFH, which is CrowdStrike Certified Falcon Hunter certification. That was a corporate training of 24 hours duration. which I delivered on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday last week. So as part of that, I created this policy. So please just you know don't take into consideration, just exclude this. And at this screen, you only see four policies now: phase one, phase two, phase three, and default. These are the four policies that you see on the screen. Now, what is the logic here? So you can see here, phase one. Phase one says initial deployment. And I'll tell you this is how it happens. So phase one this is how you will see it. This is the right order. This is how it is done. So in any production environment, give me a minute. Hmm. So in any production environment, you will see this page wherein it will say phase one on the top with first precedence, phase two with second precedence, phase three with third precedence, and then there's a default policy that you will see for Windows. This is how you will see any production environment. Now, what does this mean? Now, if you look carefully, the phase one, phase two, and phase three, all the three prevention policies, if you scroll it to the right, you will notice that it is not applying to any host. They are just blank policies. They are not applied to any host. However, the default Windows policy is actually getting applied to 35 hosts, and there is one host which is pending. So it seems that there are a total of 36 Windows hosts in my environment. And this is right now for Windows. If I navigate to Linux, because I have some Linux systems also, you can see for Linux, it is getting applied to 20 hosts and two hosts are in pending state. Probably those hosts are right now offline, they are not up and running. There could be n number of reasons. And for Mac, let's see how many. So for Mac, I don't even have a single host. There is no Mac system onboarded into this console. So it is all zero, right? Now let's go back to Windows. So I'm back to Windows now. Okay, I'm back to Windows now. Now here you can see the prevention policy. The first is initial deployment, interim protection, and optimal protection. Now, optimal is more restrictive, initial is quite balanced, and this is somewhere in between. So I'll show you. If I click on initial deployment, you will see the policy control, that how the control is. Directly come at the bottom, and you will notice for initial deployment, the policy is quite, you can see extended user mode data visibility detection. It is disabled. The policy is disabled for initial deployment. And if you look at the anti-malware capability, you can see it is quite relaxed. For example, prevention is disabled. It is only doing the detection. So you can see initial deployment, prevention is disabled. It's all disabled everywhere. You can see prevention is disabled, disabled, disabled. That's initial deployment. Prevention is disabled. So it is only performing the detect part, not the prevent part, which basically means the activities that Charles was doing, they are generating detections. However, those applications are not getting prevented. They are not getting blocked because of this behavior. This is your initial policy, stage number one. So in any production environment, you cannot be restrictive from day one. As a security professional, the right approach is to first audit, understand the environment, understand the psychology of your users, and then accordingly bring in policies and control. That's how these prevention policies work. So phase one is initial deployment, which means less control. Now, when you go to phase two basically means now you probably have CrowdStrike up and running for a month. You have sufficient data in your hands and you want to make changes. So if you look into the phase two, you will notice that most of the boxes are checked now. And if I directly come at the bottom, you will notice that now prevention is enabled. You can see prevention is enabled and prevention is kind of moderate, cautious and moderate. You can see moderate. It is at moderate level, which is balanced, not relaxed, not aggressive, moderate. That's what you will find. So that's your second phase, which is interim protection, balance protection. We are not, completely displacing our users, but at the same time, we are putting in some control. Then comes the last, which is optimal protection. This is where you will become pain in the eyes of employees. The security team will become pain in their eyes because they will start hating you. Because here your level of prevention goes aggressive. You can see cloud-based anti-malware prevention is aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. So now you have aggressive prevention. When the prevention is aggressive, every single activity of user is getting monitored and is getting prevented. That's the phase three of the policy. So how do we apply prevention policies in any production environment? We can either create our own prevention policy with our custom controls, custom restrictions and privileges, or we can apply prevention policy in phases. We can run the first phase, let's say phase one for a month, collect all the data, and accordingly decide on the phase two and phase three. Or we can create a custom prevention policy from day one. Okay. So that's exactly what we are going to do. Now I'll tell you why that applications are not getting blocked. If I go to initial deployment, which is taking the precedence right now, in the initial deployment, if I come to a point where it says custom indicator blocking, now because I've just made changes to this order, previously the order was production policy was there, and then these policies were underneath. So what basically happens in the default policy that you basically create, the default prevention policy that you create, the default prevention policy does not have custom indicator blocking checkbox checked. This checkbox is not checked actually. Because of this, because of this control which is remain unchecked, nothing is getting blocked. The hashes are not getting blocked. They are only configured in audit mode. So the activities of Charles are getting reported, but it is not getting blocked because of this checkbox. So what we are going to do, since this is a training environment, uh, we are not onboarding a customer in CrowdStrike in phases. We will directly go ahead and create a production prevention policy. Now I'll create that policy, guys. You don't need to create separate policies because prevention policy is always one in any environment. So I'm creating a custom prevention policy which I call production prevention policy, and I will schedule that policy for all the endpoints, which includes your endpoints. So let's see how I create production prevention policy. And I will explain all the options. This policy applies to all the endpoints. So this policy applies to all Windows OS client and server endpoints. So I'm creating this policy. All right, the policy is created. Now, after the policy is created, the policy will remain in disabled state. Unless you enable the policy, it will not take effect. So I'm enabling the policy. That's my second step. The policy is now enabled. You can see a green check against the policy. So policy is enabled. After enabling the policy, since it's a custom policy, by default and everything is disabled. Only the specific pointers are checked. Rest of them are disabled. So now I will need to configure one by one all the controls. And while I configure the control, I will also explain you the meaning of those controls. So the first option is under the policy, the first category is sensor capabilities. Now these settings, these 5 settings will define how sensors will behave on the endpoint. So the first control is end user notification. This control basically means that when you have enabled sensor policy on the endpoint and endpoint user is able to see the sensor and see the status of the sensor, do you also want endpoint user to be notified when that endpoint user performs any activity which is against the policy? When that endpoint user is trying to browse a website or a URL which is malicious, do you want user to be notified? If I check this box, then the user will be notified. Now you will notice every time I select a control, a configuration, this is known as configuration, and this is your control domain. So this entire page is prevention policy. Then you see control domain, and then you see configurations of that control domain. So when I click on any of the configuration on the right hand side, it also shows me the description of it, that what exactly does it mean. So endpoint notification means it will show a pop-up notification to the end user when Falcon sensor blocks, kills, or quarantine anything. So user will always see a notification that something has been blocked, something has been quarantined, something has been killed. So you are trying to communicate with your user, or you're trying to, collaborate with your user so that they also cooperate in endpoint protection. That's what this notification does. Okay, and then you can see the additional information that since it's a three step configuration, which step you should go with. Okay, then comes unknown executable analysis. Now that's another thing. What is unknown executable? So for example, Charles on his system has anydesk.exe, VLC media player.exe. They are known executables. Everyone knows that they are from they are known applications. But there are times when on your system you will have unknown executables. In that case, you are configuring, you are checking it so that the Falcon sensor, it says upload any unknown executables for advanced analysis in the cloud. So if there is any executable which is available on your endpoint, which CrowdStrike Falcon sensor doesn't understand, it will be quick to upload that to CrowdStrike cloud instance for analysis in the cloud. And accordingly, it will be educated about that executable. That's the second option. Third option, unknown detection related executable analysis. It is the same thing. If there is anything that is unknown, which sensor is not sure about, it will upload that file, upload that hash, upload that exe up to its cloud instance for further analysis. So it says upload any detection related unknown executable. Next, sensor tamper protection. This is very important. If I don't check this box, If I don't check this box, any user can uninstall, tamper with sensor files on the endpoint. Because of this checkbox, your maintenance token concept is enforced. Because of this checkbox, endpoint user is not able to navigate to see program files, CrowdStrike folder. Endpoint user is not able to stop or start CrowdStrike service from services.msc. Because of this checkbox, endpoint user is not able to uninstall CrowdStrike Falcon sensor from add or remove programs. So this is the control. This is the configuration which is blocking end user from tampering with CrowdStrike Falcon sensor. Is it making sense, guys? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes, Raghu.
Great.
Hey, Raghu, this
Yes, Raghu.
sensor temper policy is also part of that center update policy, right? They are also during that time also you told that is tick, that's why we are not able to. So isn't it redundant?
No. So this is the main policy. This is the administrative control. If I uncheck this box, then your
Mhm.
host retention policy, sensor update policy, they are of no use. They will not work as
Okay.
expected. Because of this, they
Okay.
are because of this, you are preventing users from tampering with sensor. Okay. So
Okay.
it says, you can read the description also. It blocks attempts to tamper with sensor by protecting critical components and resources. If disabled, the sensor still creates detections for tampering attempts, but will not prevent the activity from occurring. So user will
Mhm.
be able to uninstall it. User will be able to
Mhm.
change, though it will create detection, but user has already done that part. But because
Yes,
of
yes.
this control, user will not be able to do it. Okay.
Okay.
So this was about sensor capabilities control domain. Next control domain is sensor visibility. How sensor will be visible or made visible to the end user. So here you have some control, which is first is additional user mode data visibility. It says allow the sensor to get more data from a user mode component it loads into all eligible processes. So this is important. Interpreter only visibility, yes, we need that. System management engine visibility, yes. So basically, we are providing visibility to the CrowdStrike Falcon sensor inside our endpoint. See, my endpoint comprises of multiple files and directories and subdirectories. We have C windows, program files, and whatnot, C windows, and then DLL, and there are multiple files and folders. So with this control domain, I'm providing sensor visibility to every nook and corner of my system. So my sensor has more visibility about my system and it will be able to protect my system, right? So script-based execution visibility, yes. Now this is very important visibility. It says script-based execution. So what basically happens, for example, what if a threat actor, through command prompt executes notepad.exe, and in notepad.exe, there is a batch file that the threat actor has created. That would be a logic bomb also, which will then be attached to the task scheduler and be configured to run at a specific time in future. So if you want to stop those kind of activities, this control is very important. Script-based execution visibility. So whenever any script is executed on the system, sensor will be quick to have visibility into it, right? So that's the important. Then comes HTTP visibility and detection. HTTP visibility actually gives sensor information about all the browsing that is happening on the endpoint. So when endpoint user opens any browser and tries to browse a website, this HTTP visibility will provide that information. Then it says hardware and enhanced exploit detection. Yes, if there is an attempt to corrupt the BIOS of the hardware, the boot sector of the hardware, with this control, with this configuration, sensor will have visibility on it. So we check all the boxes and we say that I want my sensor to have visibility. Okay, that's the control domain. Next control domain is which is hardware enhanced visibility. This was related to the configuration. Now this is hardware enhanced visibility. So there are attacks which are targeted to increase the resource consumption on the system to make that system unstable, right? Not all hackers want to steal data. Not all hackers wants to corrupt your system. Hackers may also be hired to interrupt your system, to bring your system down for a couple of hours. For example, let's say there are two competitions, Flipkart and Amazon. Flipkart is running Big Billion Days, Amazon is running Great India Festival, and they both run the same campaign at the same time. You have noticed they run the campaign at the same time, same duration. What if one company hires a group of threat actors to corrupt the operations or corrupt the systems of the other company for a couple of hours? Imagine the revenue loss that they will incur because they earn a lot of revenue during that campaign. So that's sensor visibility. So that is where if you give visibility to your sensor will be quick to understand if there has been any sudden increase in CPU utilization and the process which is causing that increase. So that is where this is the visibility part. Then comes sensor visibility in the firmware, which is very important. If sensor has BIOS level visibility, it will be able to read the boot configuration. And if there is any ransomware that has been able to corrupt the BIOS or that is trying to corrupt the BIOS so that it can it can infect the boot sector of the system, the sensor will not allow it because it has BIOS level visibility. So sensor understands the boot process. Sensor knows what is the default boot device on the system, whether it is hard drive, whether it is CD-ROM, whether it is a flash drive. And sensor will not allow any tampering of boot sector or boot device on the system. So that's the visibility. So these are the controls that you are configuring in the prevention policy. And because of these controls, now your sensor will be more educated. Your sensor will be more proactive in protecting your system. Next gen antivirus. So what is next gen antivirus? What happens by default, if you have noticed, when you try to download a larger file from the internet, your default browser has scanning capability, or you may have a browser extension of your EDR solution that will first scan the file before it is downloaded. But when the file size is large, it says that it cannot scan the file, download it directly. If you've noticed that behavior on Google Chrome. So that behavior may bring a malicious file into your system. That behavior may be detrimental to the security of your environment. So this policy will block that behavior. Because of this, your CrowdStrike Falcon sensor will be able to scan large files also. It will not skip any file from scanning. So that's the next gen antivirus control. Then comes the another control which is very important. This control, USB insertion trigger scan. Right now, if you connect any USB drive, any USB storage drive to your endpoint will not, the Falcon sensor on the endpoint will not scan that device. It will directly allow you to access it. But with this control in place, with this configuration in place, your next gen antivirus will now scan the removable device or USB device before you are allowed to double click on it to see what files are there, before you are allowed to copy and transfer files from USB drive to system and vice versa. That's what this capability is. Next is the capability on the next gen antivirus. Now, if you remember, when I started the session, I told you that CrowdStrike Falcon sensor protects your endpoint from inside out attack. And to protect your endpoints from inside out attack, it basically monitors and provide protection from on write and on execute operations. And I also gave you an example of on write and on execute operations. So how CrowdStrike sensor is protecting your endpoint from on write on execute operations? Because of this control in the prevention policy, detect on write. So whenever there is an attempt to write anything on the disk, it will quickly detect that write attempt and it will prevent if there is any malicious payload into it. So that's detect on write. You can see use machine learning to analyze suspicious files when they are written to disk. So whenever Charles will, and now after this policy is created, we'll go back to Charles' system and see the activity. So whenever a user will try to download a malicious file, it will be blocked then and there. Whenever a user is trying to double click on a malicious file, if it's already there on the system, it will be blocked then and there because of this configuration. Quarantine on write. Now, after it detects on write, detect on write basically means that it will detect if there is any malicious activity. So what you want to do, you want it to just detect or do something. That's the second control, which is quarantine on write. So what second control will do, it will, after detecting that it's a malicious file, it will quickly quarantine it. It will move that file to the quarantine system, quarantine folder on the endpoint. There is a quarantine folder on the endpoint, which is only accessible to admins. So it will move that file to the quarantine folder. Then it says on write script file visibility. So I'm also giving visibility to my sensor whenever there is a script which is trying to write anything on the system. For example, there is a malicious file which opens notepad.exe through command prompt and types a batch file, types a code into it, and try to save it as .batch. So it's a script-based operation and it's a write operation. So because of this control, the Falcon sensor will be quick to monitor that behavior and block that behavior and quarantine that behavior then and there. So that's the control. Next control, next gen antivirus quarantine. Now related to quarantine, what will happen in case of quarantine? It says quarantine and security center registration. So what is this quarantine? It will quarantine the file and it will send that data to CrowdStrike Falcon sensor management console. And there you will have access to all the files which are quarantined. And from there, you can remove those quarantine files. So once we are done with this, I'll show you how it works. Quarantine on removable media. Yes, if there is any malicious payload, malicious file on a removable device, over here I have configured that scan removable device, USB insertion triggered scan. I've configured this part. Now when it scans the USB drive as soon as it is connected, and if it finds any file which is malicious, what is it going to do? It is going to quarantine that file also. That's what this control is. Next gen antivirus clean infected Microsoft Office files. Now this is related to Microsoft Office only. So Microsoft Office has a vulnerability which is in the form of macros. We can create macros, which is a great feature of Microsoft Office. However, it also results in vulnerabilities. So this feature will basically search for macros, any infected macros into the Microsoft Office applications. And if it finds any of them, it will clean them. And if it is not able to clean, it will quarantine them. That's what this feature is. Okay, so we are done with this control. Then there are controls related to malware protection. What if there's a malware that enters my system? It enters my system from network, from end user downloading some file, maybe a phishing attack, or maybe end user tries to connect a USB drive and malware enters my system. So what will happen if a malware is detected on my system? How do you want CrowdStrike Falcon to behave? These are the configurations. So first configuration, custom indicator blocking, very important configuration. Whatever indicators you have configured in IOC management, if you want CrowdStrike Falcon sensor to block those indicators, you need to check this box. Because this box was not checked, Charles was able to execute AnyDesk and VLC media player even after blocking them into custom indicators. Now, after this policy is configured, after I save this policy, I will ask Charles to reboot his system once again and check, and you will notice that he will not be able to execute both AnyDesk and VLC media player. Next, suspicious process prevention. This is about suspicious process. If a malware executes a suspicious process, it will be prevented. Suspicious registry operation. As part of malware, if malware tries to modify a registry key, if malware tries to create a new registry key, because of this configuration, it will be prevented. Boot configuration database protection. The boot configuration, if the malware tries to tamper with the boot configuration, it will be prevented. Suspicious script and command prevention, yes. So you will check all the boxes because you want 100% protection from malware. So the rest is driver load prevention, vulnerable device protection, file system containment. So I'm checking all of these configurations because I want 100% protection from malware. Then comes next, which is behavior-based prevention. Now, this is behavior-based. This will protect your endpoints from insider attack, from employees who are not happy with the recent appraisal, who are not happy with the management, who are probably planning to execute some malicious activities on the system, or who are quite non-technical and by mistake, unintentionally, accidentally perform some malicious operation. This will prevent those employees. So ASLR bypass prevention, yes. Data encryption, prevention, yes. Heap spray prevention. So all of these I will enable. You can read the details of them when you click on a specific, configuration. You will see the details of it also. Okay, next, behavior-based prevention ransomware. Now this is only for ransomware. These 7-8 configurations are for ransomware. So obviously I want ransomware protection. So I will enable all the checkboxes. Yes, I want ransomware protection. It will backup delete prevention. If ransomware tries to delete any backup data, it will prevent. If ransomware tries to perform crypto wall operation, it will prevent. If ransomware tries to encrypt files, it will prevent. If ransomware tries to access, it will prevent. So it is preventing ransomware. Next, it's behavior-based prevention, exploitation behavior. If any exploitation happens on the system. So I'm checking all the controls. Similarly, next, behavior-based prevention, lateral movement. Now you all understand what lateral movement is. Lateral movement basically means when a malware, a worm, a Trojan, or any malicious code tries to move from one system to another over the network. That is known as lateral movement. So CrowdStrike Falcon sensor will block lateral movement by these two controls. Then comes behavior-based protection, advanced remediation. Yes, I need advanced remediation. Okay, now this advanced remediation is for IOAs. You can see here, perform advanced remediation for IOA detection to kill processes, quarantine files, and remove scheduled tasks, and clear and delete ASAP registry values. So this is advanced remediation. So this was about the configurations, the specific behavior configurations for my endpoint. Then comes the protection level, whether I want balanced, whether I want aggressive or not. Next is extended user mode visibility. Right now, this is disabled. So I will make it at moderate level. Now, what is this visibility? It allows the sensor to generate additional data from a user mode component loaded into eligible process. So I will keep it moderate. Then cloud anti-malware for Microsoft Office files. Now, Microsoft Office is one common application that you will find in most of the endpoints. So for Microsoft Office, I want detection to be aggressive so that it will not leave any area. However, prevention, I can keep it moderate. Why I'm keeping it moderate? Because if I keep prevention as aggressive, then every minute operation of Microsoft Office, the sensor will try to block. That will unnecessarily create false positive or hue and cry situation in my environment. So the best practices as per production environment says that you keep Microsoft Office protection, detection aggressive, and prevention moderate. So while I configure rest of the controls, I'm configuring them based on my experience working with multiple customers as well as best practices from CrowdStrike. Next, cloud anti-malware, which is cloud machine learning based detections, which is protecting your environment from outside in attack, from cyber threat adversaries. So for that, once again, I'll keep detection as aggressive and prevention as moderate. Cloud-based adware and pub, I will keep it once again aggressive detection and prevention as moderate. Why I'm keeping it moderate? Because when the detection is aggressive, it will generate detections. My SOC team will be given an opportunity to decide whether they want to permanently block it or not. So while keeping prevention as moderate, I'm giving an opportunity to my SOC team to take decision. If I keep prevention as aggressive, then my SOC team has no role to play. System is already preventing everything. So that's the reason I keep prevention always as moderate. Next, sensor-based anti-malware. So once again, detection is aggressive and prevention is moderate. So same configuration I will do for everything, aggressive and moderate. Okay, sensor-based anti-malware, same, aggressive, moderate, aggressive, moderate. And then the last is cloud-based anomalous process execution. Cloud-based, if there is any process that is generated from the cloud, because nowadays your endpoints are connecting to a lot of cloud-based applications, SaaS-based modules. So if there is any malicious process that is triggered from there, it will block it. So you can see here, it says use AI-powered IOA to identify and detect potentially malicious behavior from living off the land-bound binaries on your online host. So this is how I am creating policies. This is my production policy that I've created. Now, if I want to be 100% sure that I have taken into consideration every minute aspect, and this aligns with CrowdStrike way of creating policies, I can quickly compare it with phase three. Phase three is optimal protection. Let's see what CrowdStrike says. As per CrowdStrike, what should I configure in the optimal protection case? So I'll quickly click on compare, and you will notice that I'm exactly in line with CrowdStrike. So if you see this equals marks, these two horizontal lines, it means that CrowdStrike also says that in phase three you should have them. So directly come here. So there is a difference here. As per CrowdStrike says that you don't need this protection. Let's see what is this protection. This protection basically prevents this protection basically provides visibility into distributions by enabling a Falcon sensor plugin. So I've enabled this protection. Then you can see that I'm in line with CrowdStrike, then another. Now, as per interim optimal protection, CrowdStrike says that do not enable on-write script file visibility. But I will enable, because if I don't enable this capability, then if there is any script that has the capability to perform write operation on my endpoint, and if this capability checkbox is not enabled, the Falcon sensor will not have visibility into it. So I want that visibility. It says provide improved visibility into various script files being written to disk in addition to clouding a portion of their content. So this is important factor. That's the reason I've checked it. Another phase 3, as per CrowdStrike, you don't need to configure this. When enabled, malicious macros in Microsoft Office files will be removed before file is released on the host. So why should I not enable it? I want malicious macros to be removed, right? So that's the reason I've checked it. Let's go down, then see this DEP bypass prevention, which is data execution prevention. Because of this control, the existing encryption method is not tampered with, is not compromised. So if I uncheck this box, then any encryption method which is there can be compromised by ransomware. That's the reason I have enabled. Now directly come here, see all of them are okay. Now see here. It says moderate, mine is moderate, which is great. It says aggressive moderate, mine is aggressive and moderate. So I'm good here. Now over here, CrowdStrike has some difference. CrowdStrike says that your cloud-based anti-malware should be aggressive. This is what CrowdStrike says. For prevention, it should be aggressive. But what I have done it for detection, not prevention. And I've given you the reason also. I have a team. I want my security team to also take certain decisions. I don't want machine learning or AI to take all the decisions. That's the reason I'm not keeping it aggressive. If I keep the prevention aggressive, my security team will have nothing to do. Automatically, CrowdStrike will take care of everything, and I cannot let an AI software or a machine learning to take decisions. I have humans in the loop. I want humans to take a decision whether they want to create an exception for certain activities which are being flagged by CrowdStrike, or whether they want to whether they want to add something to the block list, which is CrowdStrike is not considering as a threat. That's the reason I'm not keeping it aggressive. And same answer is everywhere. So you can see it says aggressive, 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 which I'm not keeping. So I'm doing it intentionally because if I keep it aggressive, then it will unnecessarily block a lot of operations in the environment. There is a lot of noise in my environment, and my security team will always remain busy with things which are not, which are not productive. That's the reason I'm keeping the protection level as moderate. So my SOC team will get to take the decision what needs to be done. Right over here, CrowdStrike and I are on the same page, which is aggressive, moderate, aggressive, moderate. Here, once again, they are keeping it aggressive. No, I don't want it to be aggressive because what happens, some businesses which are in the, so for example, if your customer is in the business of, uh, e-commerce, as part of e-commerce business, your customer would want to deploy cookies and script on endpoints, which cookies and scripts are adware so that people are given certain ads so that they can do sales and marketing. If I just prevent it, if I keep it aggressive, it will block all that behavior. So I'm not doing it. And over here, it says moderate, and I'm keeping it moderate. Okay. So this is how my policy compares with CrowdStrike way of it. So I have I have shown you the comparison and I've shown you how we configure prevention policy in the production environment. So this is how prevention policy is configured for a production environment to reduce false positive and to reduce noise. Now I'll save this control. So I've saved the policy. Now my policy is saved. The next step is to assign the host group. So I've just created the policy. I've just configured the controls, but nothing is assigned. So over here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to assign all host group, all of them, so that it applies to all of you. So all host groups are assigned. Now in next couple of minutes, what will happen? It will quickly scan all the host in those host group and will start to apply policies on those hosts. So for example, in case of Charles, okay, over here. So Charles, you have a total of 3 endpoints in your host group. Right now, the policy is not applied to any one of them because I've just created it. So in next couple of minutes, you will notice that your Windows endpoint, which is currently online, will be enforced under this policy. And as soon as that happens, I would request you to share your screen and show it to the rest of the participants that how Falcon is now blocking those operations. Okay, so let me complete this part. Okay, so we are done with assigning host group. Next comes assign custom IOs. Now, while you assign host group, you can also assign additional indicators of attack that you have created in another console. I'm saying there's a separate console for separate view dashboard for creating IOAs that I will talk tomorrow. So you can assign them here. And in the audit log, it will show you that who has done what. So you can see here that right now a policy has been created and these host group have been added to the policy, and who has done it. You see my name here also, add group to the policy. So these audit logs are quite critical because if any of my activity creates a hue and cry situation in the environment, the admins or the other admins can quickly come and see who has done what. So this is how I'm creating the policy. So prevention policy is created, settings are configured, host groups have been assigned, IOA I'll cover tomorrow, and audit log is there. So my prevention policy is up and running. Now I'll go back, and so now the prevention policy is up and running, but look at the precedence of the policy. Precedence is 5. The policy will not apply to any host. So if I want my policy to take precedence, the configuration in my policy to take precedence, and the configuration are applied to the host, I will need to edit precedence. I will edit the precedence and put my prevention policy on the top with first precedent and save as. This is another step that you need to do after creating the policy and configuring it. So now my policy has number one precedence. Whatever controls I have configured in my policy is going to be applying to all the hosts. Soon I will see these numbers changing. So we will need to wait for a couple of minutes, probably 3 to 5 minutes, for have these changes configured. And once those changes are configured, then we'll go back to the system. Meanwhile, I'll see if I have any questions on the chat window from participants. Okay, what will happen if we keep detection extra aggressive? Anurag, I've already answered that question. If I keep, see, detection, we always keep aggressive so that my Falcon sensor is detecting every minute operation on the system and it is reporting that operation. Why we don't keep it extra aggressive? Because if I keep it extra aggressive, it will, it will kind of scan each and every operation which is done by the end user or legitimate operation also. CrowdStrike Falcon has machine learning visibility. It already knows what are the critical areas in the system that it needs to monitor. So if you keep it extra aggressive, it will go beyond those areas and it may result in resource consumption on the system. So we don't keep it extra aggressive. But do we keep it extra aggressive in some customer environment? Yes. If I have a customer which is part of highly regulated industry vertical, for example, manufacturing units, plants, chemical plants, or defense establishments, or financial establishments, banking domain, there we keep detection as extra aggressive. In general, for all the customers, we keep it aggressive. So aggressive is for everyone, and for highly regulated industries or customer who are quite conscious about security controls, we keep them extra aggressive. But protection, you will never keep it aggressive, because if you keep protection as aggressive, your security team has very little to do, and Falcon sensor will keep on preventing things, and that will result in unnecessarily call volume to security team from applications, from end users, that they are not able to do this and that. So that will unnecessarily create a hue and cry situation. That is why we keep detection as aggressive, so that my security team will get all those detections and they can take a decision whether they want to allow that behavior in future by adding that behavior as exclusion, or whether they want to block that behavior by adding that behavior to block list. This is how we do it. Okay, moving on. Give me a minute here. So let's see the status for Charles directly. Charles, it is not yet applied. So for example, you can see in case of Hardik, this policy has been applied to one of the hosts out of 3. In case of Sambit, the policy has been applied to one of the hosts out of two. So probably Sambit has one Windows and one Linux. So since this policy is created for Windows, you can see the scope is Windows. The policy is already applied to the Windows one. Okay. Charles, is your system up and running?
Yes, it's up and running.
Great. So what we will do, since we already have exceeded the session by 25 minutes, and some participants may need to leave to attend some personal commitment, or for my people in North America, it's quite late. Let's expedite this process. Let's quickly reboot your instance so that after it comes back on, it will communicate with CrowdStrike and ask, do I have any policy update? And CrowdStrike will inform that yes, some prevention policies are applicable to you. It will receive those policies, and then we can show the participants the implication of these policies. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll stop sharing, and I would request you to share and do this activity real quick.
Should I reboot my instance?
Yeah, please reboot your instance. That's exactly what we need so that the policy is applicable to your instance. Okay, did you reboot, or did you stop and? Okay, you reboot. No problem. Okay. You rebooted from inside the OS, right?
No, inside my console, my AWS console.
Oh, AWS console. Okay, no problem. Let's connect to the instance once again after it is completed rebooting. Okay, so guys, we have configured a lot in prevention policy. We have configured on-demand scan. We have configured USB scan. We have configured a lot. However, we will not be able to validate that because it's a virtual machine. If this would have been a physical system, I would have asked Charles to quickly insert a USB drive, and you would have seen how it will scan that USB drive. Okay, so let's just see the indicator part, and this policy is into effect. Okay, before we do that operation, let's go to the console, Charles. We want to make sure that the prevention policy is applicable on your system. Not here. From your local system, you can go to console, not from this VM. Okay. From your local system. I'm saying from your the device that, yeah, from here, not from inside the VM, because inside the VM it will take time to open console.
Yes, I'm trying to log in now.
No, not from this VM, not from this endpoint, from your local system.
From my personal system, right?
Yeah, your personal system. On your personal system, you're already logged into CrowdStrike console, right?
Yeah, it did log me out, so I'm trying to log in back.
Oh, okay. All right. We are waiting. All right. Now directly go to your endpoint. So how do you verify, guys, whether your endpoint has received certain policies or what all policies are applicable on your endpoint? The right approach to do this is navigate to your endpoint, individual endpoint. So go to host management and select your endpoint. Okay. Select your endpoint. Click on your endpoint name.
This is it?
Click here. Absolutely. So that you see the details of it. Yeah. Okay. Now scroll it down. You will see all the policies which are applicable to your endpoint. Directly go to prevention policy tab and expand that tab and see if production policy is applicable or not. Great. No, it says changes pending. So which means production policy is yet to get applied on your endpoint. Now let's go to production policy. You can click here and it will directly take you to production policy. And let's see whether out of 3 hosts, go to assign host group. Then go to your respective host group. Your respective host group, where it is, probably at the bottom. Over here, see, still it says 3 and then 0. The assigned system is 0 and total system is 3. So which means that the policy has not yet been implemented on your system, because it will get propagated to all the system one after another. Probably your host is still taking time to receive this policy. But as soon as this policy is applied on your host, what will happen? The policy will take effect, and inside this host, when you click on any test.exe or vlc.vlc.exe, it will automatically get quarantined. The operation will get blocked and quarantined. Let's give it a try. If it doesn't happen, then I would request you to check it probably a couple of minutes later, or maybe tomorrow first thing in the morning, and report it on WhatsApp group whether it happened or not. Okay. So go to that. Double click on that file, both the files, and see what happens. Now they are working. VLC also, it is expected, as I said, that unless the policy is applies to this endpoint, these files will not get blocked. They will continue to run because policy is yet to get applied. For Stephen, Stephen says, yes, it happened. Stephen, can you enlighten others what happened?
The policy evidence was
Stephen? Okay,
Am I
Mansi,
audio?
the policy
Yeah,
is applied, but it is not blocking. Yes, Stephen, tell me.
yeah, there was 4 actually. Then one got assigned the precedence. It got
Mhm.
blocked.
What
Uh,
got
the
blocked?
the VLC and the file on my endpoint.
On your endpoint, it is blocked, right?
Yep.
Okay. If it is blocked on your endpoint, as an admin, I can quickly validate. So how will I validate? Let me take the control. I'll show you guys how will I validate whether Stephen is, whether Stephen is right or not. You see, I'm not doubting his statement. Don't take it otherwise, Stephen. But I'll tell you how as an administrator I can quickly validate this. So guys, hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'll do, I'll directly go to endpoint security, and over here I'll go to quarantined files, and I will see whether Stephen was right or not. Great. You can see here quarantined files. So these are the quarantined files, and here I can see, let me refresh. This is today's date. There is one file which got quarantined. Stephen, is that your file, Ultra Viewer? This is from Hardik actually. You can see the time, April 4th, 12:31, which is exactly 2 minutes before. So probably Hardik was doing this activity simultaneously. Hardik has Ultra Viewer, some application with this name configured in IOC. And after prevention policy was applied, this specific file when he tried to execute this file, it automatically got blocked, removed from downloads folder, wheresoever he was keeping it. And then it moved into quarantine, and that I can validate here. Hardik, am I right?
Yes, sir. I have
Okay.
one question after
Yes.
that.
No, let me.
So,
So this was right. Let me complete.
yeah, that
So
was
in
fine.
case of Hardik, it worked, and I can also validate this from here. If I navigate to my policy once again, prevention policy. Assign host group. Your host group is.
I can share my screen. I have everything ready.
That's okay. Let me show it from here. Hardik, over here, you can see out of 3 systems, on one system it got applied. Let's see which one system is that, right? So I can click on the host group directly. It will take me to his host group, which will show me all the 3 systems. These are the 3 systems. There are two systems with Linux, and we already know that the policy was not for Linux, it was for Windows. I'll directly click on the Windows system, select this Windows system, and I can get this details here. So when I select that Windows system, I can see the prevention policy is production policy here. You can see the prevention policy tab, it is production prevention policy. So since this policy applied on this Windows system, that is why any indicator that Hardik has configured is actually getting blocked. Now Hardik can show it on his system. You can you can
Sure,
share
sure.
your screen, Hardik, now. देखिए डिस्टर्ब किया करो हमें जो this screen.
Is my screen visible?
Yep, your screen is visible, Hardik.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
where was that file?
So that file got deleted, sir.
That file got deleted, right?
Yes.
Where was it saved?
In downloads.
In downloads, navigate to downloads.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
that file was saved here, right? It got deleted.
yes.
I'll send
Yes.
that file back to your system.
Sure.
So I have the capability as an administrator to send that file back to the system. All of you, please keep looking at Hardik's screen. He's already sharing it. And there we go. I've released the file. In a moment, it will be there back. It is back. You can see. Is it back?
So it's not showing yet. Yet. Not
It was here, 100% sure.
Let me go clean and check. So, sorry, I was looking at the wrong window.
Hi, Ragvi.
Give me a minute.
Yeah, it's back.
It's back, right? Because I've released it from the console, right? Now,
I was looking on the
understand one thing,
machine.
guys. If this file is back, what does it mean? It basically means that this file was blocked by CrowdStrike Falcon sensor based on the prevention policy. The user probably complained to the security team and said that this is a legitimate application. I need it on my system. So what admin will do after seeking approval from users manager or from management, the admin can release the file back on the system. So I've released the file back on the system. Now that the file is released, this application or this file is will not be blocked by CrowdStrike anymore. Now he can access this file, he can install this application, right? You can go ahead and double click on it, it will work because I have released it. So I have created an exception for this behavior. See, it's working, right? However, if I feel that this was done by mistake, I can once again take it back from your system. So what I'll do from the console, I'll take control for a moment now. Now, since this is a lab environment, we are doing things so faster. Sometimes it doesn't work that much faster. So from the console itself, if I go to quarantine files, if I refresh my portal, I can lock this file once again, which means you will lose this file. So for example, this was the file that I released.
The second one from the bottom.
This one. This was the file which I released. You can see that the file has an additional option, download option, because it was released. So what I can do, since this file Ultra Viewer, it was released over here, I can download it. I can delete this file also. So it says this will delete one Ultra Viewer file from quarantine on hard disk. This action cannot be reversed. I can delete this file from here also, which basically means from your system, the file will automatically get deleted. So any file which is quarantined, you can see here, any file which is quarantined can be released also. For example, now VLC is okay. So Charles, on your system, I believe it is now blocked.
Yes.
Because I can
correct.
see that here, right?
Yes.
Great. So it is blocked for Charles. Let's say I want to release it. This was done by mistake. So as an admin, I can release it like this. So it says when the file is released, it is allowed to execute on this host. Now remember, this exception is only created for Charles, not for other host. For other hosts, the prevention policy will continue to prevail, and as per prevention policy, any IOC will continue to get blocked. But only for Charles, an exception will be created because admin is manually releasing the file. So it says the file will still trigger detections on other hosts until it is allowed via exclusion or IOC management. Until admin allows it for everyone, this is only getting released for Charles. So if I click on release, the file will be released. The status is release pending. It will take a minute to have this file released, and then Charles will be able to see it back into that IOC folder.
Yes, he's back.
It is back, right?
Correct.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's how it is works. So there is a lag in the portal, and it still says release pending, but it has been back on the endpoint. So if I refresh the portal, probably it will say released. So that's how this this portion works. So you can see for Charles, the file is released. Okay, now, so what we have done, let me quickly summarize. So what we have done here, we have completed two concepts together. We have configured prevention policy, and we have also configured IOC management. And under IOC management, we have blocked hashes. And as part of hashes, you have seen for Hardik, it was ultra viewer .exe. For Charles, it was whatever, I'll just say vlc.exe, right? That's what we have done. So what I want rest of the participants to do today, prevention policy is already there. I've shown you we don't need to create any additional prevention policy. In any environment, we only have one or two prevention policy, and we can scope them to certain hosts. So we can create aggressive prevention policy for production environment and probably moderate prevention policy for non-production environment, or for a specific business unit, let's say HR people. They are the privileged one. We want them to have certain access. We can create a prevention policy, scope it to their endpoint, and keep it probably moderate, right? So you can create multiple prevention policies also based on business unit and department, based on application environment, whether production, non-production, or testing, based on site and location also. Probably Asia Pacific, you keep more restrictions. In Europe, you keep less restrictions. So that's what you can do as an admin. But you guys don't need to create any prevention policy. Just understood the concept, which is more than sufficient. However, I would expect each and every participant to have identified certain applications which you want to block on your endpoints just for the testing purpose. Identify, download those applications from the internet, identify the hashes of it through the command prompt by using the command which I shared. And after that, you want to block them, configure the IOC, hash IOC for those files, and then wait for a couple of minutes, probably 1 to 5 minutes, and then test whether it is getting blocked or not. If it is not getting blocked, then go ahead, navigate to the management console, validate whether the prevention policy is getting applied by navigating to that host. And if the prevention policy is getting applied, then try it will work. And if you want to be it very quick, then reboot the system. After reboot, the Falcon sensor will communicate with the cloud, ask if there is any update, and the cloud will share the update quickly. So this is how you prioritize the update from the console. So somebody has a question in the chat window that is it mandatory to reboot? Not exactly, it is not mandatory. I only rebooted because it's a training environment and we don't have time to configure a policy and then forget about it, probably do some other work, go out for a walk, have coffee, come back and see whether it is working. In production, you configure something and then you give it a couple of hours to replicate and enforce. That's the reason we rebooted. Reboot is not mandatory, and you cannot reboot production systems also. So Ramesh, reboot is not mandatory. Okay, for me policy is applied, but it is not blocking. Mansingh, it will get, if it is not blocking, it will start to block in some time. Sharat, while releasing, can we change the path of the file? No, we cannot change the path of the file. The file will be moved to quarantine folder that end user will not have access to, only admin has access to. It will move to quarantine folder, and when the file will be released from the console, it will appear in the same folder, in the same root folder where it was. We cannot change the path. Next. Okay, so these are the questions from the chat window. All right, guys, that is all for today. I'm open to questions if you have any before we close the session for today. So tomorrow, the agenda for tomorrow is we'll continue. Prevention policy is complete. IOC is complete. I'll take questions if you have any from today's session first thing in the morning tomorrow. If not, then we'll move on to firewall policy, device control policy, IOC exclusion, IOA exclusion, allow list and block list. That is what we are going to discuss tomorrow, which are very important concepts from administrative as well as from investigation perspective, from SOC operations perspective. That's the agenda for tomorrow. Yeah, I'm open to questions now.
So, regarding this policy, what behavior I analyzed that if I install the Ultra Viewer, right, I have
Mhm.
installed it earlier and then
Mhm.
configured the policy. So
Okay.
after that, when the prevention policy took effect, certainly when I'm going to run the executable, it got deleted, it got quarantined. That's the expected behavior. But when I'm trying to run the program which is already installed, that is taking effect. Ideally, it should not.
Ideally, it should not, and it will not in some time.
Okay.
Right?
And
Just give
another,
it some time, it will stop
sure,
working.
sure.
And even if it
Another,
continues to work, then we have another option, which is IOA. What we will do, we'll copy the path of executable of that program, and we'll put that into IOA, which is attached to the prevention policy, and automatically it will get blocked. That's the next step.
understood. Yeah.
Okay, that we
So,
will discuss tomorrow.
sure. Uh, Once you deleted the file, it should remove from my specific path, right?
Once I deleted the file, which file?
Yes. Ultra Viewer.
Absolutely. When I delete it, it will be removed from your system.
So it will take some time because it's still visible right now.
Because what I did multiple operations together. First I released it
Mhm.
and then deleted. So probably
Yes,
release operation is still taking effect.
that's fine, sir.
In the production environment, admin will either release or delete. Admin will not do both the things, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Agree, sir.
Okay, Dhruv, yes, to block domain, you might have to use Falcon firewall. Hmm. I believe we can block those files while downloading from internet. Yes, Sharad. So Sharad, so what basically happens once prevention policy is in place, once IOC is in place, there is one more thing that you will do to complement. So for example, if you have already identified that VLC media player is not a legitimate application and you want it to be blocked in your environment, then what the second thing that you will also block VLC media player domain originating site, right? So in the firewall policy, you will also block the domain. So what will happen? Your employees will not be able to access the VLC media player site website to download the executable. So they are not able to access the website and hence they can't download. And if they are able to download from any third party website or from BitTorrent or from any other site, Softonic, any other third party site, then as soon as they download it, it will get blocked because file hash is there. CrowdStrike Falcon sensor is monitoring for on write operations. Now, when you download, you're writing something to the disk. So as soon as that file is written to the disk, the Falcon sensor will quickly scan that file, and while scanning it will capture the hash of it. It will match that hash with the IOC. There's a match, file is quarantined, so you will not be able to keep it on your system. As soon as you download it, it will get removed. The third option is, what if it is already there? The moment you execute it, it will get quarantined, because the moment you execute it, the Falcon sensor is also monitoring on execute operations. So it will, you execute it, it will match the file hash, it will quarantine it. What if the application is already installed? By design, it should not allow that application to run. However, even if it allows that application to run, I will capture the application UI, the application path where the application is installed, and the executable also. So I can get the executable also has a file hash. Either I will block that file hash or I'll block the entire file path. The program under program files where the application is installed, I'll block the entire file path, and after that you will not be able to execute that application. So security is not one-time effort. Security is also hit and trial method. Sometimes you get successful in the very first attempt and everything works as expected. Sometimes there are deviations, and for deviations you have hit and trial method. So it cannot happen that you block VLC today and it will remain blocked forever. No, you will have smarter employees who will probably download an older version of VLC whose file hash is different. In that case, it will not get blocked. That is where you have prevention policy, detection. So as soon as somebody will execute VLC, there will be a detection. And your SOC team knows that VLC is blocked in the environment. So what SOC team will do? SOC team will block that specific executable by adding it to the block list, by adding it to the IOC management. So security is a continuous effort. By configuring EDR, your job is not over. You will continue to work as an admin, and every day you will report into office. You will look into the environment. You will look into the implementation, enforcement of policies. You will identify certain deviations. You will then look into those deviations, try to fill the gap. So you will continue to work on this domain. It's a continuous improvement that you will continue to work on. And then there are employees who will continue to exploit, who will continue to find ways to bypass a security method. That is where SOC team comes into the picture, who will identify repeated offender and probably give them a warning note, and if required, terminate them. So it's a continuous process. No software and application is 100% foolproof to protect an environment from security threats once and for all. It's a continuous process. Hope that makes sense to everyone. Great. All right, guys. Any other question from anyone before we call it a day? Yes.
Yeah, Raghu, Jyoti just said.
Yes, Joy.
Yeah, so while considering the prevention policy, like in the ransomware part, like you told that if our system is already affected by ransomware, then CrowdStrike cannot protect it, right? But in under that ransomware section, there are many things like it will block the encryption part, it will block those things. So like then what is the use of that?
See, it will protect a system from ransomware attack, not a system which is already exploited by a ransomware.
Okay, okay.
If your system already had a ransomware, and if that ransomware has already encrypted the critical files on the system, after that, if you install Falcon sensor and run a scan, it will be able to identify that there is a ransomware, but it cannot it cannot decrypt those files. It can only delete them. So the files which are encrypted, which are critical for your business, CrowdStrike Falcon can only delete the ransomware, delete the files affected by ransomware, remove all the traces of ransomware, but it cannot decrypt those files. That is where CrowdStrike has limitation. But there are softwares like Sentinel-1 who are capable to decrypt the double encryption which is done by the ransomware. So if the ransomware is trying to enter, they can block. If the ransomware is already there, then they can also protect your system by decrypting the files which are encrypted by ransomware. CrowdStrike doesn't have this capability as of today, but it is there in the roadmap.
Okay, got it.
So just wanted to know about one capability regarding AI part. CrowdStrike does have a capability to do the fingerprinting for any sensitive uploads to AI chatbots or AI agents.
Any upload activity, right?
Any upload block or any copy paste. Let's say somebody is trying to copy some documentation from any organizational, and that has a confidential data, and they are trying to just understand whether that data, what is the meaning of that data. There is no intention of sharing that, but that's a PII, right? If they copy paste to the AI, let's say chat GPT, that data goes to OpenAI. That's the one scenario. Another one, they can upload the whole file, and they can summarize, or they can just for information also they can do it. So is that
Okay.
capability to block or copy paste uploads?
Partially, CrowdStrike has this capability. I'll tell you. See, what basically happens, we have a domain which is known as data protection. In that domain, we have solutions which are data leak prevention solution, DLP solutions. So what DLP solutions do, they have the capability to discover, label, and classify data and files. So DLP solution can classify a file as confidential, by discovering the content of that file using regex operations, and it can say confidential. After a file is labeled as confidential, the appropriate DLP policy applies to that file. And the DLP policy will be upload, download, transmit, delete. These are the DLP policies. So the DLP software can actually block a user from uploading a file to cloud storage, from attaching a file to an email as attachment, or from copying a file to a flash drive outside of the system, outbound operation. That's the capability of DLP solution, not CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike doesn't have DLP module, right? So CrowdStrike cannot do it. Now, what CrowdStrike can do it? When you upload that file to an AI system, when you upload that file to a cloud storage, CloudStrike can generate a detection. CrowdStrike doesn't know whether that file is confidential, public. It doesn't have visibility into the label of that file because it's not a DLP solution. But
Yes.
CrowdStrike has a visibility when end user tries to upload anything to the cloud, when end user tries to send any file from the endpoint to a third party solution, or when somebody tries to upload a file to an AI system for the purpose of summarizing it, right? That is where CrowdStrike can generate a detection, but cannot block that operation.
So only
If
DLP solution has the capability
only
to.
DLP solution can do it because it's a different domain altogether.
Yes,
This
sir.
is not
Yes,
the domain of CrowdStrike.
I understand, sir.
Yeah.
Yep. Got it.
So solutions like Microsoft Purview, Amazon Macy, native DLP solution in Google Cloud. If you go to third party solutions like ForcePoint, right? These are the DLP solutions which can block this behavior.
So Purview, recently I have not like worked for from the past 6 or 8 months, but prior to that I did try to do this operation. At that time it was not matured enough, so I
No,
don't think
Purview
so.
has integration with Security Copilot now. With
Yes.
Security Copilot, it understands all AI system. So when you try to upload that file to any AI system, any GPT-based AI system, whether it is Gemini, Chat, this OpenAI, or Gemini, or Copilot, or Cloud A, or any AI system, Canva, it will be quick to. So basically, it blocks upload operation. Simple. It will
Okay.
not allow you to upload whether you are uploading it to the cloud or whether you are uploading it to an AI. It will not allow upload operation.
Is that a DSPM module?
Yeah, data security posture management. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so you need to get the full license of Purview to have that capability unlocked.
Yeah, sir. Only five prompts are allowed initially that I
Hmm.
read.
Okay, Sharath, you have a question. I believe we can block those files while downloading from internet. Yes, absolutely. As I said, once you have the URL also blocked, you will not be able to browse the website. If you're able to browse the website, you will not be able to download it. If you're able to download, you will not be able to install it. If you're able to install, you will not be able to execute it. CrowdStrike provides you full security operations. So there are four areas: browse, download, install, and execute. CrowdStrike will block all of these behaviors: browse, download, install, and execute.
So the same behavior will be on a Linux endpoint as well. If we get some file which is not required on the Linux endpoint, the policy.
Yep. But the chances are very less. I'm saying you don't have Linux, first of all, is not used by employees and users. Majority of the activities that we perform under IOC is for end users, not for servers. Because servers hardly people log in. They are hosting applications, right? So you can configure the same activity for Linux also. I'm saying we have scope for Linux, but how frequently people will download? Linux doesn't have a browser. How will you download?
Or some applications like GitHub or something like that, container application which has some vulnerabilities. So in that
You can
way.
identify the file hashes or the processes. You can identify the locations and block it in the IO.
Okay.
Yeah. So same operations you can perform on Linux. However, the frequency is very low. If you uh, you know If you monitor a production environment, you will notice that security controls are primarily for Windows and Mac. Linux is a lightweight operating system. It is secure by design and it hardly has any interactive capability with end user. It doesn't allow for interactions. That's the reason we don't bother about Linux. We bother about Windows and Mac all the time. Okay. Great, guys. This is all for today.